Hello, everyone. Very warm good evening, and welcome to the seventh session of NIA CSP Bella. This is Vaividya session, and it is, like I said, organized by Consciousness Studies program from the National Institute of Advanced Studies. So today we have Vaividya, where we invite a panel of poets who will come and share their poetry with us. And Kavyalap is conceptualized in such a fashion that we have poetry from different languages in India. And it'll be great to listen to all of you today. So, a little about Kavyalap. It was conceptualized by Dr. Sankita Menon, head of Consciousness Studies program and Dean of Humanities at National Institute of Advanced Studies, and Dr. Shankar Rajaraman, who is a postdoc fellow at NIAS. He's also a very established Sanskrit scholar and poet. Along with these two dignitaries, I am Meera Menon. I am a doctoral scholar at NIAS, and we also have Preet Kona, who's also a doctoral scholar at NIAS. So, on behalf of all of us, we welcome you all to this program. And now I would request Dr. Shankar Rajaraman to speak a few words about Kavyalap.
Thank you, Meera, and thank you for introducing Kavyalap to the audience. As you all know, there are two formats under Kavyalap, the Vaividya and the Vaishishthya sessions. Last Vaishishthya session, we had a Kathakali performance by a noted Kathakali artist, Prabal Gupta, and we are very happy to announce that it got a very good review in the Nartaki magazine by Mrs. Leela Venkatraman. We are thankful to the dance critic for having written such a beautiful article covering the details of the program. Coming to the present Vaividya session, we have limited the number of poets in this session to 4, though in the previous sessions we had around 4 poets, and therefore this time each poet shall be getting more time to recite and explain his poem. Also, we have both contemporary and traditional metrical poetry in this Vaividya session, and we have had traditional poetry even in our previous Vaividya sessions. We have also made translation an integral part of this session and plan to have sessions devoted specifically to translation, to the art of translation in the future. With these few words, I request Preet to introduce the poets for today and call upon the first poet to recite his poem.
Namaskaram, one and all. Thank you so much, Shankar sir and Meera. So I would like to invite all the poets of today. We'd start with Mr. Rajesh Panatodi. He's an aspiring writer from Kerala. He's published a collection of short poems titled Cheru Kavitakal. His writings have appeared in a wide variety of forums, including the Poet magazine, the Q, Mathrubhumi, the New Indian Express, to name a few. After Mr. Rajesh, we have Parimi Sri Ramanath. He's born in a family of poets and scholars. Literature and composing poetry is passed on to him through his family in generations. Then classic Sanskrit and Telugu verses were a part of the daily family conversations, which led to his keen interest in classical metrical style of poetry. He also takes great interest in translations and currently is translating 2 Prakrit works into Telugu. Welcome you, sir. Following, we have Mr. Surya Hebar. He hails from Dakshina Kannada. He's a Sanskrit scholar and Acharya from Sringeri, the Rashtriya Sanskrit Samsthan. He has performed 13 Ashtavadhanas and has several publications to his credit, and his keen interest in translations too. And one of his translations from Kannada to Sanskrit is Kalpaneyalli Kusu, and he's currently working as a project fellow at Sanskrit Bharati, Bengaluru. We welcome you all, and I would request Mr. Rajesh to begin with his recital.
Thank you. Before he begins, 1 second, Rajesh. It is an extreme pleasure to see you. Rajesh is a very, very good friend of mine from, we know each other from the Hyderabad Central University. He was my classmate for Masters in Literature. And I must say, he's a very good scholar and poet. So very, very happy to have you here, Rajesh. Please go on.
Thank you. Thank you all. I hope I'm audible. Am I?
Yeah.
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 Yes, thank you. So, thank you for the warm welcome. I'm pleased. I should say that very good platform like this is still alive and it's going on. And I'm also thankful for inviting a poet like me. I often bewildered when someone calls me a poet because it's quite a difficult term to define. And when writing in a regional language, to be established as a poet is quite a difficult thing. And also in a community like this, I'm pleased to read a couple of my poems. I have four short poems. I don't write long poems precisely because of the reason that uh, long poems doesn't interest me because of the times, and also the times doesn't warrant such kind of writing. So I start with one of my short poems I wrote during my UG days. I hope some of you would understand the language. After this, I will also have a commentary to read. So I'll start with Tanal. ഇന്നത്തെ ചില്ലകൾക്ക് വിട നീണ്ട ഉറക്കത്തിലേക്ക് എല്ലാം വലിച്ചെറിഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ പറന്നു പോകട്ടെ. കരച്ചിലിന്റെ വക്കത്ത് നിന്നും കണ്ണുകൾ താഴ്ന്ന് ചുഴിയിലേക്ക് നീങ്ങുന്നു. കാറ്റിൽ കാറ്റിൽ ഞാൻ പൊഴിച്ച തൂവലുകൾ വേരിലെത്തും മുൻപ് നീ ഉറങ്ങുക. കാറ്റിൽ ഞാൻ പൊഴിച്ച തൂവലുകൾ വേരിലെത്തും മുൻപ് നീ ഉറങ്ങുക. ഇന്നത്തെ പക്ഷികൾ നാളത്തെ ചില്ലകളാകാം. ഇന്നത്തെ പക്ഷികൾ നാളത്തെ ചില്ലകളാകാം. The second one is titled നിഴലുകൾ, shadows. നിഴലുകൾ. ഇരുട്ടിന്റെ കൊമ്പനാനകളെ ആട്ടിയോടിക്കാൻ തകര കൊട്ടുന്ന ഹൃദയത്തിനോട്, അതിന്റെ നീണ്ട ദംഷ്ട്രകളിൽ കോർത്ത കുടൽമാലകൾ കണ്ടു ജ്വലിക്കുന്ന കണ്ണുകളോട്, നേർത്ത മൃതിയുടെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്നും തിരിച്ചു വന്നവരാണ് നമ്മൾ. നേർത്ത മൃതിയുടെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്നും തിരിച്ചു വന്നവരാണ് നമ്മൾ. Very short one. Third one had a very specific background to the poem, which is of course the death of Alan Kurdi. I wrote this long back. So I'll read this poem. It's titled Manal Veedu. It is Sand Home or Sand House, whatever. Manal Veedu. തിരയുടുപ്പുകളിൽ എന്റെ കുഞ്ഞിന് അന്ത്യവിശ്രമം. തിരയുടുപ്പുകളിൽ എന്റെ കുഞ്ഞിന് അന്ത്യവിശ്രമം. കരയുടെ മാറിൽ അവനൊരു മണൽ വീട്. കരയുടെ മാറിൽ അവനൊരു മണൽ വീട്. ചക്രവാളം തൊട്ടു നിൽക്കുന്ന നാട്ടിൽ ഒരു പിടി മണ്ണ്. ചക്രവാളം തൊട്ടു നിൽക്കുന്ന നാട്ടിൽ ഒരു പിടി മണ്ണ്. വെടിയൊച്ചയുടെ താരാട്ടുപാട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് ഒളിച്ചോടി സ്വപ്നത്തിൽ മരിച്ച കുഞ്ഞ്. വെടിയൊച്ചയുടെ താരാട്ടുപാട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് ഒളിച്ചോടി സ്വപ്നത്തിൽ മരിച്ച കുഞ്ഞ്. The last one to be read here is മരിച്ചവരുടെ പുസ്തകം. This was written recently, a very short poem. മരിച്ചവരുടെ പുസ്തകം. യന്ത്രക്കൈകൾ കുഴിയിലേക്ക് വലിച്ചിടുകയായിരുന്നെന്ന് മരിച്ചവരുടെ പുസ്തകത്തിൽ പിൻകുറിപ്പ് വന്നു. നെഞ്ചത്തടിച്ച് കരയാൻ, അവസാനം ഉമ്മ വയ്ക്കാൻ അവർ വരുമെന്ന് മുൻപേ ചിന്തിച്ചിരുന്നു. നെഞ്ചത്തടിച്ച് കരയാൻ, അവസാനം ഉമ്മ വയ്ക്കാൻ അവർ വരുമെന്ന് മുൻപേ ചിന്തിച്ചിരുന്നു. പുതിയ നിയമത്തിൽ അത് റദ്ദ് ചെയ്തത്രേ. പുതിയ നിയമത്തിൽ അത് റദ്ദ് ചെയ്തത്രേ. So these are the four short poems. It is very difficult to call all of these poems. So I have written a short commentary for keeping track in time. I'll read a short commentary that I've written, which would encompass all the meanings that I wanted to convey through the whole poem, or all the poems, all the short poems. Sometimes it's more than a haiku, so I find it very difficult to call it a haiku. So let's call it poems more than anything, if not thoughts. I'll read a written commentary because if I start speaking about that, I might digress, which would also affect the time. So I read a written commentary. I always love reading written things. So I'll read this out as well as an addition. So when Meera invited me to join the reading session, I thought of reading poems from my college days. And for a couple of reasons, I chose to write a couple of new ones that would reflect the time I live in. One reason for that would be I've been haunted by the idea of death more than anything these days. I don't mean just the pandemic, but a couple of deaths that are personal to me or someone I care for. The first one is my former teacher, Dr. Sindhu Menon, a kind soul that departed a couple of months back. Another one was that of Surya Prasad Bharati, a friend's friend and a student at HCU. The first one shook me personally. Dr. Sindhu's life, as far as I know, often makes one pessimistic about the cosmic plan. I often think that her life was a promising project that was abandoned halfway through for reasons unknown. The second one affected people around me. It came as a shock to many of my friends, not because of the sheer loss of life, but their long, helpless hours waiting for an official confirmation of the death. Anyway, death has this magical power to intensify one's feelings, make heavy one's thoughts, and even make a layman philosopher for a short span of time. What I've been concerned about is not the why of death, but the how. More concerned about the hows of death, how one dies, and how death affects the living more than the dead. One poem that has made me think deeply on this topic is Robert Frost's Home Burial. Unlike the romantic undergrad stock poems of Frost, this is a disturbing read. We see in the poem that how death calls for a superior knowledge, and also how sudden death topples down what could have been settling into a chaos. Think of the pandemic. It started a couple of months back and has changed the whole idea of death. How do you approach death these days? Are deaths worthy during the pandemic? What about those who are waiting to shower the whole love on someone's deathbed? What happens to your last kiss, the lasting one? Does that make death an unfinished project? More than ever, death has become more statistical, quantitative, metrical, and clinical. But if one believes that death involves more than the dead, then death has become uncanny by distancing us from experiencing the dead, leaving us baffled as to how to mourn for the dead, where to bury the last laments, where to cry out our heart. Death has lost its romantic charm, which it could at least offer to those who could afford it. And now we are faced with no choice, and poetry is the last resort for disturbed souls. That's a written statement. I did not want to go on nagging about it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. I mean, വളരെ ടച്ചിങ് ആയിരുന്നു പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് because you spoke about Sindhu Menon, who was our teacher at HCU, and her death was definitely very deeply saddening for all of us. And although it is on a sad note, I must say that both Sindhu ma'am and I want to specifically remember Professor Narayan Chandran, whose class we enjoyed greatly, especially his poetry classes. He is one of the well-known academicians in the country. And I remember that just four of us had taken his poetry sessions exclusively for classes, and how much we enjoyed it and cherished it, and how much these teachers has influenced us. So, so yeah, thank you, Rajesh, and thank you very much. Ask Preet to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. There are a lot of things I could connect to either, and I think all of us, at least with the pandemic going on, even I lost a teacher who's very dear to me. So I could relate to what you were narrating, though I don't understand Malayalam. I think the commentary was really helpful. Thank you so much, Rajesh. And now I would request Mr. Sri Ramnath to recite his works. Thank you, sir.
Namaskaram to all. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity at all the people at Kavyala. I think it fills my heart with great pleasure that there is not more gift to me that one can give rather than asking me to recite my poems irrespective of their value. So in this context, I'd like to remember a verse from Vajjaladda. Sakkayam asakkayam pihuvatho soyara sangamavasena appu varasa visesam janeijam tam mahaccharyam. So the poet says that whatever the meaning of a verse can be, when the Shrotru Sangamavasya happens, it generates apurva rasa visesam. So especially special thanks to Shankar Rajaraman sir, whose work I respect greatly. So today I'd like to read some of my translations and my original poems as well. The first poem that I'm going to recite is from a Prakrit anthology called Tarayana. So my translation of that poem goes thus. హృదయాళువుల ఎదలలో ముదముల మెత్తి కలుల ముఖముల మార్చు సుధాస్పదమగు కవితో సూక్తియో విదలించెడు కవుల కగుత వెన్నెల కోలు. This poem is in a meter called Kanda. So the poet says that in the hearts of Hrudayalu, that means in the hearts of virtuous, Mudamula Metti, which applying all the happiness, and at the same time, Kalula Mukhamula Machu, it blackens the faces of the wicked. That poetry, which is like a nectar, comes from whose mouths I offer my salutations to those poets. Here, Vennela Kolu is a very beautiful expression in Telugu for salutation. Next poem is from a Prakrit anthology called Gaharayana Kosa, Gatha Ratna Kosa in Sanskrit. So this verse is on Saraswati. Vinatu Lagugata Vandaru Ghanakavindra Brunda Netra Sandohamul Bimbitamayi Nili Kaluvala Puja Gonina Vidhana Gonaburaninchu Vani Pada Nakhatati. So the poet offers salutations to goddess Saraswati, whose shining toenails they may protect us. So upon which the reflected eyes of all the bowing poets in front of her looks like a bunch of offered blue lotuses. So these are amazing imaginations. Just by reciting, one can get that much of happiness. The next verse is on the same work, Gaharayana Kosa, but this is on Lord Vishnu. Anjalulu Kanjanabhuna Kaguta Yavani Romugulunna Sri Kaustubhammu Mida Libbi Javarali Momu Marabbi Kuduru Aruna Bimbana Mrugarahita Indavagati. So salutations to Lord Vishnu, Kanjanabha, on whose chest there is Sri Kaustubha Mani resides, upon which the reflected face of Lakshmi looks like there is a reflection of moon on the disk of his sun. So this is a very Vilakshana Kalpana of the poet. Another verse is on Lord Shiva. Pranatu Lagugata Pranayana Kinuka Dalchu Taruni Padagram Chanta Talanu Valchi Padagu Gorodamula Yendu Pratiphalimpa Padinokati Menu Lagu Rudravalla Bunaku. The poet says, let the salutations be for the Shiva, and he especially uses the synonym of Rudra because this Kalpana supports actually how the 11 forms of Rudra happen. So there was a quarrel between Shiva and Parvati. So Shiva couldn't convince Parvati, so he had to bow down in front of her. When he bowed down, on the surface of her shining toenails, there 10 reflections of Shiva appeared. Because of that, he actually became 11 Rudras. So according to our Vangmaya, there are actually 11 forms of Rudra, Aja, Ekapada, Ahirbudnya, so on. So this is a amazing imagination. And similarly, there is one beautiful imagination about Lord Vishnu. The verse goes like this. Vadini Sudhabancha Nudayinchu Bamma Tandri Kapata Naritanamuna Nugaru Tiru Gachumamu Dachina Udara Kanjamu Koraku Janu Tentla Baru Valenu Kudire Neddi. So there is a saying in Telugu by famous poet called Vemana. He says, Ravi Kananidi Kavi Erugunu, Kavi Erugani Chotu Raviyuga Anadu, which means to places where the sun cannot go, a poet can go, and to places where the poet cannot go, the sun can't go anyway. So this Kalpana involves, goes like this. So in the Mohini Avatara, when Vishnu had to transform himself into a woman, he had to hide his lotus coming from his navel. So he hid his lotus. So there on his waist, there is a hairline. That hairline appears as if the line of bees going to, grab the nectar on that lotus. So this is one of my favorite verse. And the next verse I am going to read is of a poetess called Morika. She has written wonderful love poetry. So one of her verses, which is my favorite, goes like this. Vrasi ganiyimpadata geetala భరియింపరాని బాష్పధారలు చెక్కుల కడుగంగా వ్రాసినంతటి తడవు కారాదనుచుని ప్రియుని సన్నిహితము లేని వెర్రి పిల్ల. So a girl who got separated from her beloved, actually waiting for his return. So she's actually counting the days because unable to be separated with him. So what is she doing? She's writing the lines indicating the number of days that his beloved got separated from her, but she's not counting because tears are flowing from her eyes, and those are all on her cheeks. So she's unable to wipe those tears and count the lines that she has actually written, because she doesn't want that much time should happen in order to see his beloved. So that is one beautiful imagination. And the next verse is by a poet called Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara was a 9th century Sanskrit poet who has written village poetry along with some verses on Shiva. So this is one of his finest verses. So the prologue is some women are actually grinding the unhusked rice using mortar and pestle. This is a very natural scene that we get to see on the villages. So and since they are singing Janapada Gitas, to not feel the work. So there something is happening. So let us see how the poet describes that. నునుపుల్ పొల్పెసరాలు రోకళుల మేనుంబూను హస్తాబ్జమందున నొండొండుగ క్రింద మీదులై చిందుల్వోవు కీల్గాజుల ధ్వనితో హుమ్మను వేళ సేదవడి కంపంబొందు వక్షాన దప్పిన రాగమ్ముతో మించు దంచు నెడ తన్వీ గ్రామ గీతావళులు. So they are grinding the unhusked rice. So along with they are singing some songs. So they are grabbing the mortar with their hands, and they are having the bangles on their wrists. So while making the grinding, there is one sound coming from their bangles of going up and down. That is one sound, and along with they are singing some songs. So after some time, because of the work, there is a voice called hum coming from their throats. So that actually making the whole raga of the song whichever they are singing, they are making it go wrong. So they wanted to sing something, and with all these mistakes, there is something else coming up together. So that is a very amazing Kalpana. And another couple of verses I'd like to read upon Virahini. This verse is written by a poetess named Vijika. So she says there is a girl who is suffering from his separation from his beloved. She can't bear it anymore. So she almost descended into. She could only see Manmadha. So she says something to him. Let us see what she says. She says to Manmadha, "Remani talpu gelchemunu lekkaku ranati bhangi, శ్రీఘనుండామడమేర ద్రోసెనిను లాఘవమొప్ప పరాభవించె నిన్నామది రేడు వారల మనమ్మున నెంచక నన్ను చంపెదో చీ మదనుండ సిగ్గిలు కృషించిన బాలను బుద్ధి లేదుకో. ఓ మదన, రేమణితాల్, the jewel that is for the night, that is the moon, and the god who has the moon in his head, that is Remanitalpu, that is Lord Shiva. He defeated you like you are nothing previously. And so is the case with Srighana, which means the Buddha. He also defeated you. And later, after separating from me, my beloved also defeated you. So, but you are not doing anything to them. But you came upon me. Who am I? I am a Bala and I am a Krusha and I am a woman. So, without seeing all this, you came to me and causing me, hurting me like I am nothing. So, shame on you, she's saying. Another verse depicting this situation, but here after the separation, the boy and girl got together. There something is happening. It is also another beautiful depiction. This verse is written by a poetess named Marula. She is also a wonderful Sanskrit poetess. She says, the verse goes like this: Bhamini శల్యమైతివి వివర్ణవు నైతివి ఏలని హా కాదే నెయ్యినాది ఈ విధము తీరెడుగాద నెయ్యిన్ దుమారమున్ పామితివేమి పెద్దలకు పాచకురాలను గాని ఇంట అవునా మదినొక్కసారి మరి నన్ను తలంచుకొనంగనించితే కోమలి లేదు లేదనుచు గుండియగూలను మారతప్తయై. So because of the verb used here, we should imagine that the boy explaining what happened with his beloved to a friend. So he's saying to his friend that I went to my beloved after a long time and I saw her. She became very thin and her body is not at all good. Her attire is not at all good. So he's asking her like this: Bhamini శల్యమైతివి వివర్ణవు నైతివి ఏలని. He's asking, oh dear beloved, why you became thin and why your body is pale without any shining. So she says, Kade neyinadi ee vidhamu teeredugada. The nature of my body is like this since the beginning. It is not because you and I got separated. She's covering herself. And then he asks a second question: Meyin dumaramun pamitivene. Why there is dust all over your body? Because she's not, taking care of herself. She's not regularly cleaning herself and so on, because her beloved is not with her. So he's asking why there is a dust all over your body. She is covering, saying, Peddalaku pachakuralanu gani inta. I am the maid at my house. So because of that, I do a lot of works. That is why all of this dust is on my body. And again he asks, Auna madinokkasari mari nannu talanchukonanganinchite. At least once have you remembered me while I am gone? He asked her. And then she says, Komali ledu ledanuchu gundiya gulanu marataptaye. She said, no. But after that, she is unable to cover herself, fell upon the boy's heart and then cried like anything. So that is one beautiful kalpana. The next verse I am going to read is from my own poem called Aushasi. This is a long poem describing the Suryodaya. So I would like to read one poem from that. నొసటింట దీపమైన సఖుమోము దృశింప తనయంత వచ్చు సిగ్గునది కొంత మెయ్యి బొంగమోముపై మెల్లంగ చెయ్యిజాచు భర్త శృంగారాల పటిమ కొంత పుట్టింట విడనాడిపోయే నీ పతియంచు దెప్పు పంకజనని ఒప్పు కొంత పరనాథ నిధ్యాన తరుణాన ముకుళించు కల్హార కులకంత ఘనత కొంత సంతసమ్మంత తనువంత నింతలింతలు కలిగి పొరల చింతను పెకలజేయ తన మనసులోతులు పతికి దక్కు వరకు పెసరుహంగన ప్రొద్దున విచ్చికొనియే. So after the sunrise happened, the lotus flower got expanded because that is the Kavasamaya. Lotus flower, flowers when sun has came. So this verse describes how her situation before the sun is came and how it changed after it. So the lotus flower was sad because her husband, that is the sun, was not there in the time of night. And as long when the dawn is happened, she became very happy by seeing her husband. So because of, I'm listing down the reasons because of which the lotus flower was happy. The first reason is, నొసటింట దీపమైన సఖుమోము దృశింప తనయంత వచ్చు సిగ్గునది కొంత. After being separated from her husband all night, when she get to see her husband, the shyness because of which she was happy. And then మెయ్యిబుంగ మోముపై మెల్లంగ చేయిజాచు భర్త శృంగారాల పటిమ కొంత. The light rays at the very morning, when they slowly get touched on her body, that is making her very happy. And పుట్టింట విడనాడి పోయని పతియంచు దెప్పు పంకజనని ఒప్పు కొంత. The mud from which the lotus is born, I'm calling her the mother of that lotus. So she's saying all night that your husband left you at home and he's never coming back. So when the sunrise actually happened, the clay mother became very happy. So that made the lotus happy. And then పరనాథ నిధ్యాన తరుణాన ముకుళించు కలహార కులకాంత ఘనత కొంత. In that pond, there is a neighbor, water lily. Water lily shrinks itself when sunrise happens, so it flowers when moon happens. So when sunrise happened and moon was no longer there, so the water lily got shrunken herself. So seeing that, her character, that made this lotus girl very happy. So and సంతసమ్మంత తనువంత లింతలింతలు కరిగి పొరల చింతను పెకలజేయ. This much of happiness coming at all once, until her husband sees the lower depths of her heart. తన మనసులోతులు పతికి దక్కు వరకు. There is a pun here. So until the lotus completely flowers with all its petals. And at the another meaning is until her husband sees all the depths of her heart. Besaruhangana, the lotus girl, Podduna Vichikuni, got flowered in the morning. The next verse I am going to read is about Chandrodaya. It actually, the Udgama of the moon, the path of the moon at the night. So the verse goes like this. It is also my own verse. Nalladanammu varichi అనాకుల సంద్ర దురంత విస్ఫుటద్వల్లులు తీర్చి నవ్వుకొను రాత్రి తలోదరి తీరు చూసి గాసిల్లి మదీయ మోహిని స్వచేల సితాంచల చేల మంది స్నేరయై అల్లన తుచ్చినట్టుల హిమంశు రోదసి నిర్గమించడం. So the dawn is happening and night is approaching very fast. The ratri talodari, the maiden, that is the night, is actually spreading the darkness everywhere like anything. So seeing this, becoming angry, Madiya Mohini, my beloved, is actually made a wipe on the sky with her cloth. So that became actually the Udgama of the Himamshu, that is the Chandra. So here the imagination is the Udgama of Chandra is like a wipe from right to left by my beloved. So the next poem is from my poem called Aghamarshana. So here I try to imagine a new thing which I couldn't see in the previous works of Telugu Prabandhas. So actually I try to find the qualities in a woman which are in disagreement with each other. So whenever the poets describe a woman, so they describe her, she's like this, she's like that. So here I try to find the qualities which are in disagreement with each other. So the verse goes like this. Kusala samuhamu vashamaina hasamu varnabhedamu cheta vairamanda gahana netra yugali kamra vachi sarali prakatana dhvani cheta valapu viduva tarunampu dehammu danaru lavanyammu prayadurata cheta rakti maruva నిజమనో జల్పమ్ము నిర్గత వాక్యాళి వర్ణనాగతి చేత పగటునంద వస్తుదేహమునందు భాగంబు విడిరాగా ఉన్న వస్తుభరము సన్నగిల్లు జవుని మనసు మట్టుకు జవరాలి వశమునై విడిగ నధిక భరము పెంపునంది. So it is actually a story that I versified in the classical poetry. So it is actually the story of a short film called Pinched by David Vanderwood. I took that story and versified it. So the situation here is the hero, I named it as Java. He sees a girl for the first time. So he thinks like this. Kushala samuhamu vashamaina hasamu. Her hair and her controlled laugh are in disagreement with each other because of the color. Because her hair is black and her cute smile is in white color. So they are in disagreement. ಗಹನ ನೇತ್ರ ಯುಗಳಿ ಕಮ್ರವಾಚಿ ಸರಳಿ ಪ್ರಕಟನ ಧ್ವನಿ ಚೇತ ವಲಪು ವಿಡುವ. ಗಹನ ನೇತ್ರ ಯುಗಳಿ, her eyes are showing a lot of depth, and kamravachi sarali, but she is talking very less, she is not talking much. So that there is a difference in there because of the prakatana dhvani, how much the eyes express and how much her words express. In the same lines, tarunampu dehammu danaru ravanyammu prayadurata cheta rakti maruva. She is very young, so her age is very less, but her lavanya is much more. So there is a difference between in number between her age and her lavanya. So in that prayadurata there is a disagreement between them. Nijamano jalpamu nirgata vakyali varnanagati cheta pagatunanda. So because she is a girl, she must have thinking a lot of things in her mind, but she's not saying all those things. So whatever she is thinking and whatever she could express, there is a difference between those two qualities. And here the next part says, vastu dehamu nandu bhagambu vidiraga unna vastu bharamu sannagillu. So if you take out a part in an object, the weight of that object becomes lighter. But in this case, javuni manasu matuku javarali vasamunai vidiga nadhika bharamu penchipoye. Her the heart of Java became went with the heart of this girl, but instead of making him lighter, it made him even more heavy. So the next poem I'm going to read out is called Utsanga Geeti. This poem depicts the heart of Yashoda when she has Krishna in her lap, and whatever she thinks, those thoughts, I try to grab those thoughts in this poem. This poem is written in Kanda meter also. There is a saying in Telugu that Kandam Cheppinavade Kavi, which means he is the poet who could compose the poem in Kanda meter. Although it doesn't guarantee the quality of the poetry, but it surely stirs up the minds of one who is like me. So the first poem is, ఒడియు ఎల నీవు నటించెడు వేళల ప్రశ్న పుట్టు చేతనమున ఊగెడునది నీవో నిన్నూపెడు నేనో తేల్చలేని బేలను కృష్ణ. So the Krishna is in her lap and she's swinging him up and down, and she's saying to Krishna that when you swing in my lap, there is question arises in my mind that whether the swing is happening to you or the swing is happening to me, I'm not able to determine. So Vogadam is the meaning, gives the meaning of swinging, but or oscillation. So the another meaning is that it is the Krishna because he's a Paramatma. He's the reason for our oscillation between birth and death. So that's what she's saying in her meaning. Next verse is, నునుకనురేకల నిగుడింపున సొంపుల నన్ను నేను పోల్చుకొనేదగాని నినుంగన్నది నేను ననుగన్నది నీవు శంకనాకగు కృష్ణ. She's saying, when you oh Krishna, when you widen your eyes to look at me with all the love, so my reflection comes into your eyes. I'm able to see myself in your eyes, but I'm not able to determine whether I'm looking at you or you are looking at me. So Kanu means to see, or it also means to give birth. So in another meaning, Yashoda is saying that I'm not able to determine whether I gave birth to you or because you are a Paramatma, you gave birth to me. Next verse goes, నా నలుసువి నా తండ్రివి నానిధివీవేయని గ్రక్కున నెడందకునే నానింతును గాని నీవే ననునెత్తు చిరుకోర్కే వీడదు కృష్ణ. When you are with me, I say like, oh my little one, oh my lad, oh my treasure. Saying things like this, I hold you to my heart. So I actually hold up to you my heart, but I want you to hold me because you are the God. I want you to give me the Sharanagati of you. He's saying. Another verse is, Kannaya anu pilupuki ప్రన్నని ప్రాకుళ్ళతోడ పంచకు పరువై నిన్నగ ఒత్తువు గాని నన్నే రాని ఈ తృష్ణ నమ్మిక కృష్ణ. Whenever I call you Kannaya, so it is a Telugu form of Krishna, Kanna. Hindi also Kanha, so from that we can see the similarity between those words. Kannaya, whenever I call you Kannaya, you crawl back to me very fast and you come to me. But I am praying to you that you let me come to you. నీ జుంజురు జడజిక్కులలో జారి మదీయ దృక్కులు చెరించి పరిత్యాజిత చపలములై గురి రాజిల్లునదేమో వింతరా మరి కృష్ణ. Whenever I look at the disheveled or the disordered hair of yours, instead of scattering, my sight becomes fixated on you. So because since the woman's sight is very chanchala, it is said to be very chanchala, but whenever she looks into the hairs of Krishna, it becomes stagnant. So she's saying that is a chamatkara. లేతల పోతల తీరిన గీతల పాదములని పరికించుచునగి నా చేతుల చుట్టెదగాని ఊతము నేనేను నీవో యున్నది కృష్ణ. Whenever I grab your very soft gentle legs and I see all the chinnas, because Krishna's padas will be of divine symbols. Whenever I see them, I want to grab them and kiss them, but I'm not able to determine whether I am holding you or you are holding me. Next verse. గళమును సవరిచి డంబములలర ముద్దాన లలిజోలర్పించద గాని లలిత శబ్ద కలిత గీతుల గతము నీవే అనుచు తోచును కృష్ణ. Whenever I want to sing you a lullaby of love, I adjust my throat and I can sing it to you. But whenever I sing lullaby to you, it occurs to me that you are the reason for my voice and my sound, because of God's willing only the sound happens. And the last verse I am going to read out is called is a bandha verse. So I'm also interested in writing some bandha poetry, so I'd like to share you with one bandha. It is a very peculiar bandha, that's why I wanted to share this with you. So I'd like to show you the actual bandha. Can I share my screen? I think the option is not working.
We have disabled the option of sharing the screen, sir. If
Okay, then I'll just read out the verse. This verse is on Shankaracharya. So it is written in a bandha called Mahapadma Bandha. So the verse goes like this. Apavarga Shamyu Viharana Kalita Siddha Sakalyamantayu Charu Rupu Ramaniyavada Karanilungu Sabhalella Kanthana Tiru Changalvamala Vishwa Kalyana Sadvedi Vartili Bilchu Kamra Bhedot Patakamu Mata Karuna Vilasa Durukanta Dushkalushanta Lalitam Supurnamu Raga Viksha Parame Leni Samsara Vadamandu Edo Yokaritini Ninu Padadikamula Kashta Sadmamunu Vidaleka Nutiyintu బాము గుంపుల బాపి నిర్వాణ లక్ష్మి అమర వికసించునటు సాకుమయ్యనన్ను. It is a prayer to Shankara Bhagavad Pada. So I am saying like his form is like the personification of all the siddhas, and his tone is victorious in all the debates wherever he go, and his word is eliminating all the differences because of his Advaita philosophy, and his sight is very kind, beautiful, and filled with love. So I'm praying to him that in this samsara I want to offer my salutations to you. So please educate me or take care of me. That is the meaning of this verse. So that is my last verse. Thank you, Nias, for giving me this great opportunity.
That was a wonderful set of poems and translations, Mr. Ramnath. I think I was able to connect the reflections of these wonderful verses are also seen in later Telugu poetry and also Kannada poetry, I think 16th to 20th century. When you spoke about Kaustubhamani, I could relate to Chengalvaraya Shastri's one of his composition where he mentions again Pankajaksha Kaustubhamani Bhushana. Then going on the concept of Naika awaiting her lover, it reminded me of a lot of poetries of Kshetraya and Pattabhiramaya. And when you ending of Krishna and Yashoda, their connection, it reminded me of a beautiful Purandaradasa's Pada, Jojo Yashodaya Nanda Mukundane, and Jagadodharana, one which is again very, very popular, or Adamacharya's Muddugare Yashoda. In total, I am sure everybody enjoyed too. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Ramnath Garu. Inta adbhutamaina kavitalu malli anuvadala pradarshanaku ధన్యవాదాలు. Now I would request Mr. Surya to begin with the dissertation.
Namaste. I have composed some verses with same topic, Chandrodaya, moon rising. The various things in the nature, how they react or what they tells to the moon. Here the meter is Shardula Vikredita and Utprekshalankara, Arthantaranyasa Alankara in some verses are used. Samudraha, sea, moon rising, the time. Kshamak shobhavashat naditu nikate nayati tasmad bhrasham khinnoham virahat name virahajam tapam vidho vardhayehe tvam karshami tataha karomi viraham tara priyabhyopite vaktitham swasharira vardhana paraha sayam savaran nidhihi. Here, this because of famine, river cannot join to the sea. Sea is the lover of the river, so the sea is in the sorrow of separation. This moon increasing the sorrow of separation of sea, so sea is telling Tvam karshami tataha, I will pull you from the sky, and viraham tara priyabhyaha, I will make your separation with your lover. So the sea is raising his hands to pull the moon into sea. Vaktitham, she is telling this verse. Next one is Parvataha, mountain. Dhairyam toyanidhehe vikampayasire sthiryam madiyam sprushehe matsam sthaushadi manjari patirasi tvam mam katham pidayehe ityevam vidhu kopa vardhana paraha rarajate sanuman tasmat raktakarosti sheetalakaraha sayam nabho mandale. Hey moon, you are stealing the braveness of the sea, but you can't touch my stability, because you are the owner of the medical plants which are stated in me. Chandra is Oshadhisha, Oshadhinam Patihi. So you cannot do like this. Ityevam vidhu kopa vardhana paraha. Telling these words, the mountain is increasing the angry of sun. So the sun is red. Sayam nabho mandale. In the evening, sun is red. Sheetalakaraha raktakarosti. The soothing rays, Chandra, is now red. Now red. Nadi. Sheetamsha udite mama priyakaro rudyatsa varanidhi matsam sarga viyukti karanataha ityadhamane nimnaga dhodho shabdapara dhrisham swaviraham prakyapayanti dishaha samlagnasti sudhamshu bimbajanane kantam priya vanchati. Sheetamsha udite, she is the lover of me. So when moon arises, moon rises, she will feel the sad of separation, viraha. So I have to go fast to the sea, thinking this dho shabdapara, making dho sound. This river is running towards sea. This dho shabda indicates that the sea is telling whole world that I have to go fast. The sea is telling har viraha to all the world. Dhodho shabdapara swaviraham dishaha prakhyapayanti sanlagna asti. Why the sudhamshu bimba janane kantam priya vanchati. When the moon arises, every lady wants her partner with her. So this river is running towards sea. Next, the Chakravaka bird. Avabhyam divasaha sukhena daita sangena sanyapitaha duram mam swakarena me priyakarat kartum vidhau ichhati khe tasyapi taraka priyakari sanyoga kale bhrisham badhasyaditi chakravakayugalam taram samutkrosati. Chakravaka birds stayed together with joy in all day, but this moon comes and separates the Chakravaka birds. So the Chakravaka bird is weeping because in the sky Chandra is with his partner stars Tara Priyabhihi saha with joy. Tatra badha syat. I will disturb the moon by my sound. So badha syaditi chakravakayugalam taram samutproshati. So the Chakravaka bird is weeping loudly. Akashaha asayam kila sapta sapti kiranaihi taptosti raktananaha shaityan amshu chayan prasarya shashabhrit tapam madiyam yati rakteshvasmi kriti sudhamshu kiranaihi nashtatapah saukyabhrit yairanye virahakulaha pranayinaha praptatapaha dukkhinaha. In the whole day, asayam saptasapti means Surya, sun. The sky is hot because of the sun rays. After the rising of the moon, the sky becomes cold. Sky is now red because of sun rays. So sky is rakta. The another meaning of rakta is who have the affection. One who have affection or viraha. One who have viraha, he definitely feels bad when the moon is rising. But rakteshu kriti asmi. Among the raktas, I am the lucky one because when moon rises, I feel happy. But other raktas, other virahis feel bad. So I am the lucky one among the raktas. Vayuhu shitamsho bhuvanam swakiya kiranaihi shitam vidhatum nabha praptastvam purushe kuto virahinam nishvasa samvardhanam yena syadmama shitanashanam ataha sarvatra chaushnyam mahat swasmin karmani ko bhavet budhajanaha badha karo buddhitaha. When the moon rises, the intention of moon is the cool entire nature, but moon increases the viraha of separation, viraha. So here the Vayu, air says, virahi people who are in viraha, they exhales. Because of their exhales, I become hot, air becomes hot. So the main intention of the Chandra is not here. So swasmin karmani ko bhavet budhajano badha karo buddhita. Here arthantaranyasa alankara. An intelligent person never becomes or creates hindrance in his own work. Here Chandra creates hindrance in his own work. Kamalam. त्वत्संस्थामृत संचयादपि मधु स्वाद्वस्ति मे खलु अतः रोलम्बाः प्रपतन्ति मयि अनुदिनं पातुं मरन्दं मुदा आयातेऽपि नभः त्वयि प्रचलनं न स्यात् अलीनाम् इतः तस्मात् मां मुकुलीकरोषि मुकुलीकर्तुं निजां न्यूनताम्. Here the Kamala or lotus says, you have amrita and I have honey, but the honey is greater than amrita because marandaha, honey bees, comes on me, not on you. After the rising of moon, the honey bees stays in the Kamala itself. So ayatepi nabha tvayi nabha ayatepi अलीनां प्रचलनम इतः न स्यात् इति तस्मान् मां मुकुलीकरोषि. That's why the moon closes the petals of the lotus मुकुलीकर्तुं निजा न्यूनतां, to hide his imperfectness. The moon is closing the petals of the lotus. Next, vrikshaha चोरा मां निशि कर्तयन्ति तमसि त्वं पासि तेभ्यः परं त्वत्पादैः विरहाकुला विलपति क्षीबा रथाङ्गाङ्गना येनात्र क्रकचध्वनिं न झटिति श्रोतुं क्षमा रक्षकाः रक्षित्वापि निहन्ति भाग्यहतकं माम् ओषधीश स्वयं. The woodcutters or one who stoles the woods or trees, they going to cut the trees in night, but the moonlight, but because of moonlight they don't cut the tree. So moon helps the tree, but in the same time, because of the moon, Chakravaka, this Rathangangana means Chakravaka birds weeping loudly. Because of the weeping of the sound of Chakravakas, Rakshaka, forest officers or police, cannot hear the voice of the weapon used to cut the tree. So, Rakshitvapi nihanti daivahatakam. You saves me and you are the reason of the end of me. So, Rakshitvapi nihanti bhagyahatakam mam oshadhisha swayam. Next one, bhumihi, prithvi. Taptam शीतमरीचिभिः क्षमयसि त्वं चन्द्र मे तापनं लुप्तं नेति विचिन्त्य यत् पुनरहो मां वारिणा सिञ्चति सिन्धोर्वर्धनकर्मणा विरहिणां सन्तापजेन अश्रुणा स्वं कार्यं सकलप्रयत्ननिरतैः सम्पाद्यते सज्जनैः. Taptam शीतमरीचिभिः क्षमयसि. Your main intention is cool me, Shita Marichibhi, with soothing rays. You spread the soothing rays on me, but you thought that that is not enough to cool me. So you pour the water on me. How? Sindhoha Vardhana Karmana. Moon increases the sea. That's why water comes on the bhumi or earth, and virahinam santapajen ashruna, the tears of the virahi people, you makes me more cold. Swam karyam sakala prayatna nirataihi sampadhyate sajjanaihi. Sajjanaihi swam karyam sakala prayatna nirataihi sampadhyate. Dhanyavadaः. अत्र समयः समाप्तः इति चिन्तयामि. I would like to thank all coordinators, especially Shankar Rajaraman, a great contemporary Sanskrit poet, and Surekha Kamath. With her help, I presented meanings in my English. So, thank you one and all. ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
ಸರ್, ಇಷ್ಟು ಅದ್ಭುತವಾದ ಪದಗಳು ಹಾಗೂ ಅನುವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಪಡಿಸಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಹಳ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. Especially when you mentioned about Chakravaka, the Brahmini ducks, this entire curse to this Brahmini ducks gave birth to a beautiful raga in Carnatic music called again Chakravakam, which is the 16th Medakarta. So it is said that melancholy, which is a part of that raga, rises out of when you mentioned that the birds cry out in the night. So the entire essence of that crying out, that because that encapsulates the melancholy of the Raga Chakravakam also. Thank you so much, one and all. And now we would open the space for discussion. If anybody has any questions, suggestions, or even if the poets want to ask anything to each other, the platform is open. For the next 10 minutes, we could have short and quick discussions before Shankar sir gives the ending note. If anybody has questions, you could write it in the chat box, or switch your videos on, raise your hands. We could. Meera, there is something in Tamil, Malayalam. I'm sorry. Would you want to read it?
Yeah, I would read it. Mr. Sandeep has said, കവിതയുടെ ധ്വനി ഏറെ ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു രാജേഷ്, കേൾക്കാൻ സുഖം, വേദനയും വേണ്ടുവോളം ഉണ്ട്, വളരെ നന്ദി. Sukanya has also written something to that effect. She has written, it was amazing and painful too. Thank you so much. Valare nandi. I will leave the other comments in other languages for Preet to like read.
No, I not that.
Or maybe Shankar sir. So,
I mean,
but anyway,
but I do speak Telugu. So I think for Ramnath garu me Telugu, Vishwanath Satyanarayan garini Talpichindi ధన్యవాదాలు. Mr. Raju writes this for you, and there is some Shrikant sir is here. Shrikant Krishnamurthy sir, do you want to add something to the comment you mentioned? Niharika, if you could unmute Shrikant Krishnamurthy sir.
Hi, Shrikant here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You're audible.
Please go on.
Namaskara. So yes, Sri Ramnath mentioned this about how Kandapadya is considered as a kind of standard against which poets are measured. If you write good Kandapadya, that means you must be a good poet. I have definitely heard this before, again in the context of Telugu poetry. In fact, that's what prompted me to start with writing Kandapadyas very early on, about 20 years ago. Now, I have absolutely no idea, even today, after all these years, why Kandapadya is considered as a standard. Do you have are you able to throw a light on why it's considered such a good measure?
Sure, sir. Thanks for asking the question. So, the idiom which I said, Kandam Rasinavade Kavi, is came because of the complexity on the meter, the Kanda meter. So, there are so many rules you should follow, along with the Eti and Prasatha rules that are common to all Telugu prosody. And
right,
a good Kandapadya should be in a Chaturmatra Gati. So you should be able to divide your words. And so it is very hard actually to give a shape to Kandapadya in Telugu.
Okay, fair. Thanks very much. And thanks for your excellent poems as well. It was really good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There is one more question, Ramnath garu meekoskaram. Where and how can we get access to your works? Is there any blog? I think we will get back on that. We will put it on the WhatsApp group too. While reciting, you've referred to some poetess. Can you share some information about her?
Yeah, sure. So I've translated the poems of multiple poetesses actually. One is Marula, another one is Vijika, and I think there is one called Morika. So these are very wonderful poetry in Sanskrit. So I have composed essays on them in Telugu as well. So if you're interested, I'll share those essays with you.
Thank you, sir.
Preet, if I may say something?
Yes, please. Yes, Meera.
Okay. So I had this question. It is open to all poets. Perhaps Rajesh can answer first, and then I would also even love to hear from Shankar sir about this. In our previous sessions, as well as this one, we have seen a lot of intense poetry about death, about melancholy, about viraha. I was wondering, is it that I wouldn't call them negative emotions, but does sadness weigh in our heart so much that it becomes expressed as poetry? And is it that most poets feel closer to poetry when they're writing about their sad emotions? Is there a predominance of emotions such as these in poetry? Also, there are different forms of poetry, right? Like some people write, especially when it comes to subjects, some people write about uh, contemporary relevant issues, politics, all of that. But even so, I feel generally poets seem to be very uh, close to subjects like sadness and emotions of that kind. So, what is your take on it, Rajesh? And then maybe we can hear from other poets as well.
Yeah, that is a wonderful question, to be precise. The thing is, writing has something to do with emotion. I agree with that. And the idea that, see, the basic thing I understand is people write when they are sad. Some of them, if they have the capacity, the gift, or the hard work of being or chiseling themselves into a writer, it is okay if you don't write as well. When you're sad, it is not mandatory that you write. But sadness, of course, has this overwhelming, overarching capacity. It simply can give you a cue to writing. It can prompt you to write. Similar, I won't say that happiness makes you write something. I have never felt that personally. But unlike happiness, if you will, I will use the word sublime. Thoughts that are sublime, experiences that are sublime, of course, makes you write. There might be death. uh, I don't know how many of them have thought about that, but death is a sublime thing. Death is not as simple as it seems, but it is a sublime thing. Melancholy is connected to that, but it is more sublime when it comes to writing. When you write about death, it's a sublime thought. Another one, when you're talking about emotion, I would say that it is not just when you are having emotions that you write. When you don't have emotions, when you're free from emotions, you write. Saints write. There are a lot of people who write when you're you're free from all kind of emotion. Then I would obviously call it another kind of emotion. When you have no other emotions, popular emotions that you have that would prompt you to write. Having no emotion itself is an emotion that can make you write. Sadness and death, of course, has been my important theme to Mira's question. Death for a larger reason, because nothing has made me think like death. Nothing has prompted me to introspect so much. Nothing has so far caught me so much. Nothing, no amount of happiness has stayed with me maybe for 2 or 3 days continuously. No amount of happiness has never uh, made a rumpus in my mind. No amount of uh, happiness or no amount of other feelings have uh, I don't think when I got an MA, when I got a BA, when I got a medal, or when I get something published, I have that in my dreams. I have so many bad dreams. I have a parallel world created within me. Maybe many a times I can't reflect that in my poems. I have a parallel world when it comes to death. Maybe everyone can connect with this. What are the kind of dreams that you see when young? When you're young, that is the most creative, that is the most productive, that is the most original time that you have. For me, as a child, the most number of dreams that I had was about haunting death, death of some kind, either of mine or people around me. So when I grow up, uh, I grew up understanding death, but I often feel that people understand death and grow up later on to forget that even worse, to make themselves idle people. So understanding death and forgetting death is part of growth. And if you still can remember death in a very good way, it really helps you write. Apart from that, I don't think a philosophical side can be given by other poets as well, because I love the way they write. I can't write like that, to be very precise. The sound, the meter, the rhythm. I think that can be even better written in meter than free verse. So others can obviously have a good take on that.
Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. We'll also definitely hear from others. So if even Shankar said if you want to say something, and there are some comments in the comment box as well.
Maybe we should take the comments first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Shrikant sir writes, any acute emotion can prompt poetry to express oneself and well as to expunge it. it can be quite cathartic and therapeutic, I would say. I think I definitely agree with you, sir, with any kind of an extreme emotion. For example, this reminds me of when Tyagaraja Swami gets back the Sri Rama's Murti, he writes Kanukuntini Sri Rama in Bilahari out of extreme happiness that he finds back Rama. Or on the contrary, you see Shama Shastri writing in Telugu, Nannu Brova Samayamide, extreme catharsis, so much of melancholy in that he puts up in that particular piece. I still remember MS Amma's rendition, Haunting. So I definitely agree with that. And is there?
We also have Sandeep.
Sandeep has something to say. Sandeep, Niharika ji, can you unmute Sandeep? He's here. He has.
Hello.
Yes, Sandeep, you're audible.
It was very nice to listen to all the poets today. Especially Rajesh had started off the evening in a very nice note. I mean, nice in the sense like although we are talking about sad times and grief and melancholia and stuff, but at the same time we write poetry and we read it out loud and people are commenting on it, and I think that is the only probable solace that a poet or any person can find even. So on that note, I would like to thank all the poets today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. So if I think we've no questions, or if there are any other questions, we'll keep the WhatsApp group open for discussions. Keeping time in mind, I would request Shankar sir to take over.
Thank you, Preet. On the last question that was asked by, it was Shrikant, or on the propensity of Karuna-based poetry in Karuna-based poetry, I am reminded of this saying by Bhavabhuti, Sanskrit dramatist, who says, who goes to the extent of saying Eko Rasa Karuna Eva. There is but one rasa, which is Karuna, and all others are just offshoots of that Karuna rasa. And at some other place, he says Thik Prahasanam, fie upon laughter, fie upon comedy. Summarizing today's poetry session, we had three excellent poets reading out poetry in Malayalam, Telugu, as well as in Sanskrit. We had Rajesh, who recited four poems, four Malayalam poems. I'm not conversant in Malayalam, so you should pardon me.
Sir, you're mute, sir. If you could.
Marichavarude Pustagam. And all these were four new poems which the poet wrote for us. And he spoke of how he was haunted by the thought of death when he composed these poems, especially of people who were close to him. I was reminded of one saying by Kalidasa in his Raghuvamsha, Maranam Prakriti Sharirinam Vikritar Jeevita Muchyate Budaihi, which translates to death is more natural than life, and if one leaves, it is only by a quirk of fate. Then we had Ramnath reciting several verses, some translations and some verses composed by himself. He didn't have time to read out his Mahapadma Bandha, the Chitra Bandha verse, to explain the Chitra Bandha verse. Hopefully, I don't know whether he would have, maybe in the discussion he could explain. He had verses from both Prakrit as well as Sanskrit translated into Telugu, verses especially by Sanskrit poetesses, Morika, Vijjika, and Marula, Morika, Vijjika, Adhyaha, Rajashekara quotes these various Sanskrit poetesses. He also had verses composed by himself on sunrise and moonrise, a poem titled Aghamarshana, and excellent verses on Krishna and Yashoda, and he ended with the Chitrabandha, which unfortunately we couldn't visualize. Then we had Surya Hebbar reading out several verses on the same topic, which Ramnath ended with, or Ramnath had also verses on the Chandrodaya, and Surya also had verses mostly on the Chandrodaya, with lot of poetic tropes added in, Preksha, Upama, etc., Arthantaranyasa and others. Also a lot of dialogues between, for example, the tree and the moon, the lotus and the moon. I especially liked the where the sea rises in the evening to pull the moon from the sky, so as to cause the separation of the moon with the stars, just as the uh, uh, moon prevents the meeting of the Chakravaka birds, um, and several other verses. Thank you, Surya, for those verses. And these are my comments on the poems that were composed today, poems that were read today. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankar sir, for all your comments as well. Now,
speak about the future programs.
Hello, am I audible? Okay. So I think since we don't have many comments today, we have already got all of those. And if there are not many questions, we will just conclude today's session. So I want to express my hearty thanks to Dr. Sankita Menon to begin with for conceptualizing this program, and Shankar sir, obviously, because he's always there with us, supporting us and introducing us to so many good poets. And also all the 3 poets today who came and shared their poetry with us in such a platform. Thank you, all of you. And obviously all our participants who always come, attend our sessions, ask such good questions, initiate discussion. So for all of you also, many thanks. And then again, can't conduct any CSP program without thanking Niharika, who always is there for us with technical support and all of that. She's also a doctoral scholar at NIAS. And then there is Ashwini and Abhishek, who help us with the publicity and documentation. So thank you, both of you as well. And I just want to mention that our next program is going to be Kavyala Vaishishtya. And it will be on the title, A Gentle Introduction to Dhvanyaloka. It was taken by Shashikiran BN. He holds a master's degree in Sanskrit aesthetics, and he is the co-editor of Preksha, an online journal of Indian culture and philosophy. So he will be talking about Anandavardhana's Dhvanyaloka. So please do attend the session. You will have a lot of fun. So yeah, Preet, would you want to say something?
Yeah, nothing. That was wonderful, Meera. I just want to mention that it is on the 6th of October, and once they're ready, we will inform you all. Thank you for your presence, and thank you one and all. Namaste.
Thank you.